My name is Teresita Blanco, there's a sister, and we're continuing with Saturnastra Lamina. This is chapter 16, 1-6. Look, Irving, it's never good for business to get on the bad side of the nobles, and if you want to do some grand gesture, turn into a fiery something and say in a booming voice, Bersamet is dead, the kingdom is no more, and the lords have abandoned us, and we must rely on ourselves for protection, you say, not looking up. And Irving looks up and says, and I should do just that. And as soon as he leaves, the Bashmago enters and commands, Lamina, why must you put stupid ideas in the boy's head? And why do you think that is a foolish idea, you ask, pouting your lips? I'm not in a mood with arguing with you, Lamina. Good day, he says, slamming the door behind him. And just as you have suggested, Irving returned to the tower to devise a method of delivering his message in the way you described. And he tries asking Irving for help, but he soon realizes that his master too wants to dissuade him from the foolish idea. And Irving has become stubborn as of late, and in the end he resorts to his charms, and making a huge fire apparition was a piece of cake. And he made some of the required sizes while practicing with Irving's barrier. And now making it talk was another matter. At most he could only make it do ghastly sounds like into rushing water. And in the end he decided to try a more subtle method. In using the anchor, he made everyone in the city see the strange apparition with a terrible message. And this shared dream was seen as a visitation from the goddess of fire, Chorus, and to add to the illusions, it made the fire spectre look like a maiden surrounded by flowers with the texture of embers. And it was a good thing that the city did not have a high priest of Chorus, a priest who had been able to recognize Irving's maiden as a fake. And this little magistrate did have some unexpected consequences for Irving. One day he was picked up by the guards and sent to speak to Solaria. And after a brief meeting, Irving agreed not to use such a spell ever again under the penalty of death, and Irving's dreamcast had affected everyone in the city, including those who were trying to suppress the news. And naturally panic struck in certain sectors, but not because of Irving's message. And to show the adoration for the goddess of course, some groups had set fire to the gardens and homes as well, and the arsons were eventually arrested. And something good at least came out of this entire mess. Irving has stopped interfering in political matters, though he still protects people with his magic from time to time. Spring came and weathered the army of Irving, in spite of everything, had lost 20% of its soldiers, and the families for the past week were hosting funerals. And there was quiet somber days, and while walking in the garden, Warmer comes to you and asks, are there other Sphynxes like us? In this world, a handful, not counting yourself, you say, Johnny. How many exactly, says Warmer. Well, there's Canon, and Una, and Muna, and Luna, and I think there was another one, but I can't remember his name. And then there was your mother, who may or may not be alive, you say, frowning. Which one is it? Says Warmer, raising his voice. The hell should I know? I don't have all the answers, you say, exasperated. Could have fooled me, says Warmer, shrinking away from you. And Warmer is quiet for some time, and then he asks, do you think we can make babies? We got a mouse in your pocket, you say, grimacing. Ugh. You know what I mean, says Warmer angrily. I don't know, you should give it a try and inform me if anything comes of your ventures. You say Penny, he said, as if he was a little kid. Ah, they certainly mature at the same rate as cats. You're not help at all, says Warmer, getting up. I was not put on this world to make your life any easier, my dear Warmer, you say, laughing, remembering one of your brother's little favorite lines. And noticing that Warmer's not leaving, you said, God, what do you want from me? Permission? Do whatever you want, cheese. I do not have stones running through my veins, says Warmer, departing. And after he leaves you sit there and ponder a little, and you start absent-mindedly feeling one of your curls while you meditate on this trivial matter. And in the end you decide to put it out of your mind altogether, and the days slowly roll by, and you continue not performing anything you consider remotely productive. And even when you provide information to Solaria, you're just going through the motions, counting down the days before it is time to go home. And by summer you do not see or hear what occurs around you, and you lie down and refuse to wake up. And after a week of lying dormant, you rouse from your sleep after feeling little creatures nibbling and biting at you. And when you awake, you see that it's just your imagination, and you start heading out, and you know the conversation ends as soon as you enter the room. And you head towards the river to take your daily bath, and normally the Sphynx should have come with you to mimic your libation, and this time they do not follow. And when you return home, you find Irving and Fiona and the Bachelor waiting for you in the drawing room. You sit down before him and John, and Irving starts, we are worried about you. How so, you ask Johnny. For the last month or so, it's like you're not even here, and there has been a dead look in your eyes ever since you found out that there were no more abandons, says Irving sternly. And do you need some grandiose mission to feel important, Lamina? If you need a new sense of purpose, join the army, or look after some orphans, or go to temple. Do something, he says, Mago. Unlike you people, I don't need a sense of purpose to live my life, and life is pretty much purposeless. And it's humans who try to find meaning in their meaningless existence, and I am content to live out my life doing whatever I desire. And if I have been a little bit out of touch, it's because of my soul-crushing boredom. I feel boredom, my friend. It was eating me up on the inside. You finally say, exasperated. If you're bored, we can go on another quest or something to find a long-lost weapon or a spellbook, suggests Fiore. Nah, that's childish. And you three are pretty much settled into the city, and I do not wish to uproot you for my own selfish desires. And you add, forget I said anything. It would be a lot easier and cheaper to buy some board games or go to a gaming house. That won't work because you had the smell of the place and the drunkards constantly trying, explains the Bashmago. And one went into the rooms after eavesdropping for a bit, and he suggests, we could try to do a mage tower, and my brothers and sisters can head out and recruit no mages, and we can even do the school thing and make it a game of it. It does seem like something to do, and worst comes to worst, we can always kill them, says the Bashmagos nonchalantly. Yeah, let's do the mage tower thing, says Fiore happily. And by this point you decide to keep quiet in order not to shadow their resolutions. And in the midst of the merry conversation, one of the fairies informs you of an interesting development, and then you say, there's one problem with this plan, and we will be competing with another magic school. Is there another Master Suberus, as Irving concerned? Nah, it's the same guy, and he wants to reconstruct his tower, only this time does things differently. And it was not enough for him to destroy 2 magic schools. A third time is the charm, as the saying goes. Actually, there's technically a new master of the tower, though he will not use the name Suberus, and the tower has been claimed by an apprentice of a forest of druids with an unimpressive name, who calls himself Clive, you explain. How would that be a problem, as Fiore? The only foreseeable problem is that the picking of magic users are now slim, and Clive's apprentices have already approached the best of the best, which were now in hiding, as well as those who show latent talent, and as for Suberus, he would only bother to teach war orphans. It is kind of a little sad if you think about it, you say, smiling. Yes, his paranoia has reached new levels, and if he can only trust people without family ties, explains the Bashmago. So who does that leave us, Irwin? The usual undesirable children of harlots and cultures, goat herders, farmers, who never read a book in their life, and people who cannot generate enough magic power to even cast a single spell, you explain. Well, if they have no magical powers, how can they be magic users, asked the Bashmago? And in answer you point to Irwin's crystal, and the gold flees for a moment, and a candlestick bends before returning to its original shape. Smiling, Irwin says, hey, don't you suppose they limited their search to humanoid folks, do you? Maybe, you say, smiling. Before we get carried away, does anyone know anything about running a school, asked the Bashmagos. We will figure it out as we go along. It's not as if the tower was Suberus and the way it was run helped out one bit, says Fiore. You certainly do make a good point, says the Bashmago, somewhat deflated. Autumn comes, and by then your companions have already decided on a concept. One teacher, one student, one magic school, and each teacher was going to work with one student at a time to make certain that the maximum amount of information was absorbed. And this concept suited your companions, so historically speaking, they learned better when they had tutors' undivided attention. And this approach was going to cost, obviously, an arm and a leg, and the norm of the day was to maximize profit by overstuffing classrooms, and one would require a large enough monetary incentive to woo them into trying out this new idea. And Erwin says, perhaps we should try to recruit teachers and explain to them our ideas, and maybe they will be able to weigh in on some quick money-making schemes. We could always rob a bank, suggested the Bashmago too dryly. Now we need a long-term solution, plus I'm not too keen on the idea of robbing banks because you make too many enemies, and then we won't be able to study magic because we will be fighting a bloody war all the time, you say, frowning. You certainly do make a convincing argument, says the Bashmago. Maybe we could try to reach out to some wealthy benefactors, suggested Fiore. That is all well and good until they use their purse to indirectly run the school, and I would much rather be self-sufficient than to depend on the charity of others, says Boomer, shaking his head sadly. So the school needs 2 branches, the public education phase and the one whose entire purpose is to turn lead into go figuratively speaking, says the Bashmago. Whatever business enterprises we end up pursuing, it needs to build up around a brand, and people need to know that one school of magic is the source of product or service we offer, you explain. And what's a brand, as Fiore confused? It is a mark that allows a craftsman to overcharge for their shady products, says the Bashmagos. But I was under the impression that master craftsmen only make top quality items, says Fiore. That's what they want you to think, says Bomber, pointing to his head. And I spoke with Irving about our plan, and he says that it's a stupid venture, but he has nothing better to do, so he will lend us the first 10 tiers of his, or lower tiers of his tower, so to speak. And the barracks and classrooms can house 200 people, and if you give him a couple of months, he can increase the size of the lower tier tenfold, though the inner city will experience some mild earthquakes, nothing worse than a mild trembling in first Irving. Cause yeah, like the Irving's tower, if you don't remember, it's like underground and it's like reversed, yeah? So then if the tower that's underground is expanding, of course it's gonna like move the earth about. Before we have to resort to that, we should start but with 100 teachers and 100 students, and we will expand the school as we find the teachers and the respected students, you suggest. And after taking stock of our funds, we decide to start with only 25 teachers. And once we get that small number, then we move on from there. And the fairies have already in mind possible students for Irving's school. And they have already been causing the students and filling their heads with all sorts of stupid, fantastic ideas. And within the first week, you already have 5 new teachers in the tower, as well as 40 prospective students from the city. And classes are not in session as of yet, though the students and teachers are settling in. And each is being allowed to weigh in on the matter of getting this tower in working order. And the first teacher to be recruited was a farmer named Windy, and his cat Magris. And Windy was not particularly well known because he could not cast a lick of magic, though he would have sublime and channeling power to his cat Magris. And his channeling techniques were quite advanced for a self-taught magician, and it was his idea to start getting the students early and giving them personalized attention through shifting rotation. And also his cat Maugris would help Idero and Irving with some of the preliminary classes. And the second teacher was a woman named Ben Saibel, and he was the only son of a hag, and he had murdered his mother because of a woman, and he was versed in curses, fate weaving, fate magic, alchemy, and necromancy. And he had agreed to come under the condition of being allowed to date whatever student he found appealing, which was gross, but whatever. The Bashman was not too pleased by your readily agreement to these terms, and the tradition emptied out your coffers quite a bit, and Demonas was part of a new 10 archmagos of the Tower of Suberus, and he had been lured away thanks to a bag of filled with rubies. And as he told the new master of the tower, Demonas does not work pro bono, and he was a trooper in this regard as a smart practical man skilled in the classical elemental magic. And the first teacher was a rare find indeed, and up until now you had assumed that Potobasian had died of old age by now, and by now he should be 250 something, well past the expiration date of any human. And Potter carries himself like a cliché with the long, elegant white beard and the silver hair, and his eyes are deep and thoughtful, and his old mage had the physique of a 50-year-old farmer, but still strong as an ox. And the fairies inform you that he has been traveling on the boat and singing to himself, and he seemed happy at the prospect of finally being needed by someone again. And the last teacher of the lot was Euna, and she was a rich princess of the Unhal clan, and she was almost burned as a witch by her husband, and the problem had to do with her little hobby. And after having too many stillbirths, she had acquired the habit of making porcelain children, and her opus magnum was a baby that resembled the first child she had lost. And when the child came to life, she was sent to the stake, and her precious creation shattered. And it was believed that she was burned to death, and why or how she was alive was a matter of much debate. And no one never spoke of her past, though she was apprenticed to one of these reclusive alabaster dragons. And the days quickly rolled by without any classes starting, and for one reason or another, Princess Enoa became the de facto archmagus, and she had a better sense and management skill than the other mages assembled, and unlike Iridon, she generally wanted the school to work. And her first order of business was to get her finances in working order, and the school was seriously hemorrhaging money by the minute. And the school needs to balance out free education for the students with self-sufficiency, and to answer the immediate need for money, Princess Enua comes up with an ingenious idea. They will sell to the city infertility curses, and the curse can be applied in the form of a rune tattoo. And it can be temporarily lifted by drawing an additional rune to it, and the curse can be applied by the students as well as by the users of crystals. And master accompanied some prizes. The infertility curses sold like pancakes, and the biggest buyers were the courtesans and farmers that had too many mouths to feed. And through channeled clandestine measures, girls who were too young to have kids would get those infertility curses. And within the end of the year, the coffers of the school were filled and were able to buy new supplies, books, and food for all of the students. And the new year has come, and we are finally making a profit, and the capabilities of the print shop were useful for spreading the infertility curse through it. The men and women of Europe have finally complete control of when it is convenient for them to have children. And it all sounds cute when you say it out loud. However, the clergy was most infuriated by this curse, and normally people came to the temple to ask for a fertility blessing, and your group's curses were cutting into their business, and they would not tolerate such incursions. And it was only thanks to your connection with Solaria that you avoid further problems. And the tower was no longer allowed to publicly advertise those services, though customers came from time to time thanks to word of mouth. And depending on the client, Enua would encourage the students to try to squeeze a little bit more wealth out of them. And Demonas wanted to go a step further and blackmail the wealthy patrons, but Enua didn't allow him. And the new year came, and the classes were finally in session, and the whole one teacher, one student concept was still a faraway dream. Though the classes were small, and each teacher was only dealing with 5 students, and the classes took 8 hours a day with 4-hour break between each session, and there was the option of tutoring, which was mostly done by the old man Potok, and he was relentless and eager to pass on his knowledge and wisdom regardless of the hour, and the students believed that he did not sleep. And for a fact that he does sleep, and usually for the duration of the afternoon break. When not studying, you were in charge of the physical recreation of the student, and most of them did not have a problem with combat training, though a few had never so much as run a leg in their entire life, and during those sessions it was common for the farmer Windy or Ben Sabet to attend, and they would casually slip into the group and the guards to take part of the recreation. And the age group of the student was quite varied, and half of them could not read, and this was not a problem since Farmer Windy was also attending your writing classes. And the ages also had a wide range, and this made Demonas worry about since some of them were older than 40. And this did not matter to you since they were all starting to study magic from square one. And Demonas would often tell you they are far too old to be learning new tricks. And they do not need another person telling them what they already know. And besides, magic was originally discovered by old folks, and their proximity to death gave them a certain affinity to magic. And besides, 40 is not that old, and the body may wither, but the mind can stay razor sharp. If the person is willing, you say frowning. I sometimes wonder where you get all of this stupid information from. Demona seemed inclined to complain more, but he chose to remain silent. He had been hired to perform a job, and he planned on giving it his all. His work integrity was one of the things you found most appealing about him. The following day, Ben Sabet was amusing himself by asking his peers about you, and for reasons you did not care to understand. And he had a hard time speaking with you, and he would always send messages to you indirectly or leave the room when you came inside. And to Irving he asked, "Has Lamina always been so cold?" "Not really, it's just that all her emotions seem fake as all," says Irving sadly. "So she doesn't hate me," says Ben Sabet, smiling. And she just acts like she does, and she has a bit of a sadistic side, seeing as though she enjoys toying with people and trying new ways to make them tick. Either that or she spends too much time following through an evil suggestion of her fairies, explains Irving. And about those fairies, when I was small, I used to see them in the forest, and even today I sometimes see them. Lamina's fairies, I think they're imaginary, and fairies cannot exist in the city, especially in a city with such artificial nature, says Ben Sabel, folding his arm. I wonder so much as I don't know much about that myself, and as you can already guess, Lamina is not a normal being, and even by magical creature standard, her fairies may not be ordinary, says Irwin, looking over his shoulder, as if guessing that your fairies are eavesdropping on the conversation. Ben Sabel looks behind Irwin and imagines that he's seeing something small moving about the shadows, and he becomes convinced that my fairies are just good at hide and seek, and the next person he passes is the Bashmago, and he goes to find him at his print shop, and as of late he has been printing spells for his student, and when he sees Ben Sabel approach him, the Bashmago closes the door and locks it within. And Ben Sabel frowns as he teleports himself inside the shop, and once inside he remarks, "That was rude." "I know why you're here and not in the mood to talk about Lamina," says the Bashmago, annoying. And what, is she your woman? And even if she was, maybe she still does do you a part, and now that she's back on the upper market, says Ben Saberanoy. And Grandma said the Bashmago says, you are not even on the same species, so let her be. That's not never stopped humans before, and just look at the broadosphere with nymphs, elves, maiden, and even dwarfs, and I'm not asking for myself but for another. Sure, I must admit she's pretty, lad, but she's too cold for my stay, answered Ben Saber. Well, whoever's interested, tell them to bug her up, said the Bashmago, pushing Ben Saber out of the shop, and the following person Ben Saber bothers is Irving, and by now Irving has one Irving of Ben Saber's little inquest, and shaking his head, Irving says, before you get any more stupid ideas, you must know that creatures like Lamina are incapable of love or lust for that matter, and the way she spent her time grooming herself, I am half inclined to think that she's a narcissist. Narcissist, as Ben Saber, unfamiliar with the word. I think she loves only herself above all else, says Irving. I have already heard that from more than one person, and how can you be certain of this fact if no one has ever tried to woo her, asked Ben Saber? I can think of a better way to spend my time, says Irving, sinking into his aria. And the last person Ben Saber goes to speak with is Fiore, and Fiore is a lot less hostile than all of the other men Ben Saber spoke to, and she gives a detailed account of your generosity and eagerness to please. And what sort of person does Lamina like best, asked Ben Saber. Like, well, she likes stubborn, persistent people like the Bashmago, and she may not look the part, but she enjoys arguing with people and lecturing them as well, except on matters of magic. And Fiona picks up her doll and then asks, and I think she maintains a distance from people because it no longer matters, just does it, Dolly. And don't poke too much into the matter and let Lamina be. And by now Ben Saber had finished his little inquest, and the results were hardly satisfactory, and no one had told him anything he did not know already. And regardless, he sold the information to the interesting party, and since his inquest had arrived short, he invented some colorful facts about your life. Because of him, flowers and gifts and deserts as well as plant mail started being sent your way, and you do not begrudge Ben Saber and his little white lies were helping to fill up the coffers of the tower. And in time the tower was finally making enough money to hire new mages and accommodate new students, and each time a new arrival has its own unique way of investing in the tower, and in time the idea of one tower, one student, one teacher was finally fulfilled. Alright, so this is a good place to leave it. Bye bye and God bless. And we're almost close to like the end of Lamina.